Hi, good morning. Today's lesson is about Kamau Brathwaite's poem Ananse. Ananse is a trickster spider, which often pranks and even takes human shapes, which is one of the primary characters in West African and Caribbean folklore. The poem has been divided into two parts. In the first part, Ananse thinks and memorizes the native culture of his country which once existed but has been lost now. In the second part, Ananse weaves and recreates the lost culture by binding past stories, cultures, words, songs of Africa, and thus, like God, he brings the dead African culture to life. In every stanza, Ananse changes its form and presents something different. In part 1 of the poem, the poet says that Ananse, the trickster spider, is thinking with his eyes open while sitting in the periphery. The memories of the past culture and past myths are in his mind like pupa of butterfly, i.e., the memories are in their lifeless state in the dark space, or in other words, buried deep inside the mind, and he is thinking about them. He observes the forgotten and submerged ancient histories, past stories of ghosts, myths, Caribbean identity, and culture. He memorizes folklores, songs, music, and carnivals, festivals, of villages which have also been forgotten by the people. A number of men in the villages have heard him. He inspires them to take action. However, the tradition is not totally dead and unknown but in hibernation. Having thought about the past of his dead culture, Ananse shifts to a corner of the ceiling where no broom can reach him. This shifting probably means shifting back to the past culture where colonialism cannot harm him or his thinking. Having shifted to the corner, he prepares to recreate the past culture which has been destroyed now. The poet compares this creation from destruction to the rise of Adam on earth after his fall from heaven. Ananse starts weaving the past and conspires to create things. By his weaving of the past, the tradition and the culture which was dead is rising again and coming to the surface. Thus the shadow, which was in the mind of Ananse, is turning into reality. The histories, stories, ghosts, beliefs, rituals, myths, language, accent, thinking of past culture, which were mere shadows, have emerged now, and thus the past culture has come to life again. Ananse as the creator of this culture thus becomes God who brings African identity, having black beating heart, which every African can adopt, having the language of every African. Ananse is the word breaker, rules of colonial language by which he becomes creator and maker of a definite identity and culture for the people of Africa. The past culture of Africa had their literature in oral form which was meant to be heard. This concept does exist in this poem. The meaning of the poem lies in the sound of the poem, or in other words, form of the poem gives its meaning. The very title of the poem, Ananse, depicts this deviation. The correct spelling of this word in British English is Ananse. However, the poet deliberately chooses the word Ananse to show his revolt. In the English language, the literature is always in written form and is meant to be read. However, here in this poem, we find the concept of orature, or oral literature, which can only be understood by listening to it. The break away from the set rules can be found in the poem, e.g., poet deliberately uses the term hunger instead of hunger. Again, he uses the word ironide instead of ironide. The use of Ananse as the narrator, creator, and breaker signify the power of an African, who can recreate his culture, reject the colonial culture, and rise to the status of God, of colonialists. Thus we find a revolt against the domination of culture, of colonialists, through the use of language in the poem. Thank you, students. Today's lesson is over. Let us meet in the next class.